Consider the contents of your pockets or your purse right now. If you are like the average person, tracked by the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the physical cash you carry has been quietly vanishing. In 2023, the average person carried $81. By 2024, that number dropped to $67. We are moving away from physical friction, but we are also moving away from the psychological awareness of spending. We tap, we subscribe, we auto-pay. But the most dangerous drain on your wealth isn't the lat you tap your phone for. It is the infrastructure you have built to support your career. We are often told that the path to wealth is linear. Get the degree, get the high-paying job, and the surplus income will make you rich. But there is a silent mechanism at play that erodes that surplus before it ever hits your savings account. It is not lifestyle creep in the traditional sense of buying luxury cars or designer watches. It is a structural necessity, a second rent, composed entirely of time-saving conveniences that you feel you cannot live without precisely because the job that pays you requires you to have no time left to live. The degree didn't just buy you a salary, it bought you a deficit of time, which you are now paying a premium to fill. To understand this trap, we have to look at the modern balance sheet, not as a list of luxuries, but as a system of compensatory spending. When you sell 40, 50, or 60 hours of your week to a specialized career, you are not just selling your labor, you are selling the hours you used to use to maintain your life. Cooking, cleaning, raising children, home maintenance, and even driving, these were once sweat equity tasks. Now they are line items on a credit card statement. This shift has transformed conveniences into fixed overheads. Let's begin with the largest anchor in the budget, where you sleep. We rationalize expensive housing by saying we need to be close to the job market. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditures Report for 2024, the average housing expenditure is $26,266 per year. That is 33.4% of total spending. But for the degree holding professional, this number is often much higher because the high-paying jobs are concentrated in zip codes, where the cost of living is mathematically hostile. This brings us to the second anchor: transportation. You might think of your car as an asset or a simple tool, but in the context of the degree trap, it is often a tax on your employment. The same BLS report shows that the average transportation cost is $13,318 per year, taking up 17% of total spending. You might argue that companies help with this. We like to think corporate benefits soften the blow. However, the data paints a starker picture. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 10% of private sector workers had access to subsidized commuting benefits in 2024. The vast majority of workers are fully subsidizing the infrastructure required for them to show up to work. When you combine housing and transport, half of the average budget is gone. This dynamic hits hardest when we look at family structure. The quintessential successful household today is the dual-income family. The Bureau of Labor Statistics noted in 2024 that 49.6% of married couple families are dual income. On paper, this looks like a doubling of resources. Two salaries should mean twice the wealth. When both adults work high-pressure jobs, there is no designated home administrator. The domestic labor gap must be filled by the market. This is where childcare enters the equation, not as an option, but as a mandatory tax on working. Childcare Aware of America reported in 2024 that the national average price of childcare is roughly $13,128 per year. That is the average. What is more concerning is the velocity of this expense. Since 2020, childcare costs have risen by 29%. It is outpacing almost every other category of household inflation. The Bank of America Institute released data in October 2025 showing that childcare payments increased by 5.2% year over year in September 2025. So if you are running a household where the price of admission to the workforce is rising faster than your salary, you are statistically swimming upstream. This creates a specific kind of fragility. You are earning more, but your break-even number, the amount you need just to exist and go to work, has skyrocketed. You have lost the ability to scale back. You cannot simply stop paying for childcare or move to a cheaper house. without quitting the job that pays for them. Let's pause and run a math moment to see exactly how this dissolves the wealth of a hypothetical yet statistically representative household. Let us look at the Millers. They are a dual-income couple living in a Tier 2 city. They both have degrees. Let's assume their combined gross household income is $150,000. That sounds like a lot. It is well above the median. But let's strip it down first. The mortgage. To live within a reasonable commute of their corporate jobs, they pay $3,200 a month. Next, the cars, 2 reliable vehicles for 2 commutes, plus insurance and gas using the BLS average as a baseline, but adjusting slightly down for a shared economy. Let's call it $1,100 a month. Now the childcare, they have 1 toddler. Based on the inflation numbers we just saw, they are paying $1,200 a month for a mid-range center. This is where the convenience trap really begins to bite. In 2025, the Institute found that roughly 39% of single adults suffer from time poverty, with employed women experiencing it 9 percentage points higher than men. So what do they do with that remaining $3,000? They buy their time back. They order delivery 4 nights a week because cooking takes an hour. They do not have that is $600. They hire a cleaner twice a month because their weekends are for recovering. That is $300. They pay for a laundry service or dry cleaning for their work clothes. $100. They pay for a gym membership they rarely use but keep just in case because they need to stay healthy for the job. Suddenly that discretionary income is being consumed by the cost of exhaustion after groceries, utilities, and these convenience fees. The Millers, earning $150,000 a year, might have $400 left over at the end of the month. They are solvent, but they are not wealthy. They are merely processing a large amount of money through their bank accounts, keeping very little of it. This brings us to a critical distinction in how we view wealth. We tend to look at the top line revenue, the salary, but true financial freedom is determined by the operating margins. A household earning $80,000 with low fixed costs and a stay-at-home parent who manages the domestic sphere might actually have higher free cash flow and lower stress than the Millers earning double that amount. The degree trap is the illusion that higher revenue always equals higher margin. Reasonable people disagree on whether this is a bad thing. Some economists argue that this outsourcing of domestic labor is good for the economy. It creates jobs for delivery drivers, cleaners, and childcare workers. From a macroeconomic perspective, the Millers are excellent consumers. But from a personal finance perspective, they are fragile. If one of them loses a job, the overhead remains. The mortgage, the car notes, and the childcare contracts are fixed. There is also the nuance of geography. This second rent phenomenon is heavily concentrated in coastal urban centers. If you live in a rural area or a low cost of living city, the pressure to outsource everything is lower. But that is also where the high salary jobs tend not to be. One could argue that paying for a cleaner or childcare is an investment in your career capital. It frees you up to work harder, get promoted, and eventually out-earn the costs. This is the corporate ladder defense, and it is true for the top 1% of earners. If you eventually make $500,000 a year, the cost of a cleaner is negligible. But for the vast majority of the middle and upper middle class, income growth rarely outpaces the inflation of these services. Remember, the Bank of America data childcare inflation is outrunning general inflation. We have to look at the behavioral side of this. Why do we accept this? Why do we willingly sign up for the second rent? It is because the pain of time poverty is immediate, while the pain of lost savings is distant. On a Tuesday, the $20 delivery fee feels like a bargain to save your sanity. You are not calculating the compound interest that $20 could earn over 30 years. It is the surcharge you pay for living a life that is slightly beyond your energetic capacity. And the modern workplace is designed to push you to that limit. The connectivity, the expectation of immediate response, the commuting, it all drains the battery. This structural